Ant Man 3 Quantumania is a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is where the story starts. The end is where the story finishes. In the middle, events occur. Some happen quickly, some slowly. Actors act. Dialogue is delivered. Scenes appear, and then new scenes appear. Shots are edited together. Diegetic and non-diegetic sound is present. The plot progresses. Action is both rising and later falling, as it should, and eventually is resolved. There are 3 acts. Characters are introduced and they have what we're told are motivations. Their lines, carefully focus tested as to be a wet gray paste with all the flavor and nutritional value and wit of distilled water, are lines of dialogue. Jonathan Majors as Kang is interesting in what we can all agree was a movie. This is my spoiler-free review of Ant Man 3. Ant Man 3 was neither bad nor good, but was boiled unseasoned chicken breast and white rice of Marvel movies. It technically satisfied its requirements, but was otherwise incredibly mid. This week, I'm reviewing Ant Man 3 Quantumania in full and its larger implications for comic book film, cinema, business, and American culture, but specifically the MCU. Stick around, or don't. I'm Dan Umpton. This is the Doomcast. First off, do me a favor and hit subscribe and the bell because I make about one of these videos a week. They're all great, so even if you disagree with me, and if you do, please let me know in the comments. You won't want to miss the rest of these videos. Also, big shout out to Brightside Ale Works in Altoona, Iowa, a great hidden gem of a brewery taproom with a range of clever and tasty brews just outside of Des Moines, Iowa. Thanks for kicking in a little sponsorship for this episode. Also, big thanks to Aaron Graff, good friend and comedian who is obsessed with a very specific brand of water. I also appreciate you, and thanks for sponsoring this. Thanks to both of you. In brand marketing, there's this concept of a trust thermocline, a hard point, much like a thermocline in ocean water, where customer and patron trust remains warm enough to swim in and then suddenly, almost unpredictably, chills. When a brand or franchise or media outlet passes that point, breaking the trust of its fans or users, it's almost impossible to get back. A lot of people have been talking about this with regards to Twitter, but basically people are fully on board, even with a product or experience that has recently been subpar to what they're used to, until suddenly, en masse, they just aren't. That isn't to say you lose all of your users or fans, but you lose enough of them that it suddenly makes a difference that you can't ever recover from, and I feel like Ant Man 3 might be that point for the MCU. It's death knell from which it might not ultimately truly recover back to its endgame levels. I'll address why after I review the film in full, and just a warning, spoilers follow. Ant Man 3 Quantumania, like Darren Aronofsky's The Whale, 2022, starring Brendan Fraser, is the tale of an unnaturally large man struggling with his past, trying to reconcile his absence in his daughter's life, and dealing with his own mortality. The difference is, The Whale was good. Ant-Man as a film is visually stunning. Probably the entire thing is green screen, which is insane to think about, but here we are. If you like that kind of thing, you'll love it. If you hate that kind of thing, you're not going to enjoy it at all. The new characters and extra designs are really imaginative and truly interesting. I cannot fault you if you enjoyed this movie, because while I can't pick anything I find truly insufferably awful, other than the script itself, there was little that was actually good. Kang was the exception. The limited backstory that we do get, as well as Jonathan Majors himself, is the most interesting part of the film, and it carries it almost single-handedly. However, the rest of the movie, Quantumania literally feels like it was written by an AI and might be a prank. It felt somehow flat and hollow, like things that we've seen before, but deconstructed down to their bare essentials and then reconstructed with dialogue that was uncreative, flat, predictable, and very forced. Which is a testament to the actors, because they did what they could with what they had. If you care about film, art, or even popular art like a Marvel movie, go open a Word document and write what you think happens in Ant Man 3 Quantumania before seeing it, because whatever you write, even if you are illiterate and dyslexic, is better than what happens in Ant Man 3 Quantumania. It feels like it was written by a robot that just got a humor chip installed and it was trying to still navigate human humor, like all of the components of humor were there except funny. There's points where the beats of dialogue sounds like it should build to a witty or profound profound line, but then suddenly doesn't, and instead a kind of flat deadpan that doesn't really carry itself as anti-humor or an unexpected line, but it feels just like the most generic thing that you could imagine. It definitely felt like it was written by a guy who had written Rick and Morty, and Disney focus groups didn't like or didn't get a lot of the humor that he had originally put in, so he had to go rewrite the entire thing, including the ending. At one point, MODOK inexplicably is defeated and confusedly asks Cassie's stature character after she calls him a dick, "I don't know what to be. Tell me what to be." And that was how the entire movie felt. It just didn't know what to be and wanted you to tell it what to be. I've often reviewed films from the relative position of my original expectations, and to be fair, I see the movies that I review twice, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Now, Black Adam I had very low expectations for, and it certainly exceeded them. It wasn't a masterpiece, but it did surprise me. This I expected, gosh, after a mostly dull Phase 4, and with this new villain, and you're marketing this as the beginning of a new saga, the first film in Phase 5, there's got to be something truly exciting here. And we finally get Kang, and we get this big new threat, a new saga, and with all that hype came a film that tasted like water from the ice you finished your Sprite in 2 days ago and left that cup inside the car. See that? It's a pretty good line. It's evocative of a concept. Most of this movie fails to do that with any of its dialogue. Anything it builds up, including Kang, unfortunately, fails to fully deliver. It presents Janet as hiding something, and never truly gets beyond, oh, just she knew about Kang? Bill Murray's Kryler appears as this major introduction, this guy who's supposed to be some kind of big deal, and then just is not in the rest of the movie, is just gone, entirely inconsequential. David Dastmalchian and William Jackson Harper's Veb and Quaz, respectively, were more interesting than most of the main characters on screen, and we got nothing from them, hardly either. Katie O'Brien's Jentora got no real character other than muscle lady with scepter that makes people splatter. I had to look her name up. Michelle Pfeiffer, still very hot. Michael Douglas's Hank Pym, for all the reason that he had esophageal cancer, has somehow no chemistry with a woman who arguably, yeah, anyone would. Also, Janet had 3 enlargement Pym discs, so she could have escaped at any time? What did I miss here? The ending felt like it might have come to a really powerful conclusion. The sacrifice of Scott Lang to keep Kang trapped, or maybe that Scott and Hope were going to get trapped in the quantum realm for forever or a really long time, but nope. Nope. Look, if we're past Endgame, we're past a point where we're telling origin stories and dealing now with a cabal of villains who are the same dude and also not, and can control time and space and are virtually invincible. There is no room for a film returning to status quo at the end or a semblance thereof. Somebody gots to die. But that's the central problem of the MCU right now. Post-Endgame, most of Phase 4, their film and streaming TV, has turned into a kind of gray paste content, and while it's got passable moments and some certain specific bright spots, it's all that is propping up a giant inflated Disney machine and its bloated, expensive, low-content streaming service, which, not a stab at Disney, other than occasionally HBO, most streaming services have become mostly low content and bloated and trained audiences to just wait for movies that are just okay to view on a streaming service. And they just aren't getting the revenue out of that, the streaming service, that they were out of physical DVD or Blu-ray sales back when everybody used to buy them. And so that's the reason when I hear people say, well, what did you expect? It's fine, it was a fun movie. Yeah, it was. Turn your brain off and just enjoy it. I did the parts that were enjoyable. Oh, it didn't promise to be big. Not everything is Avengers. Okay, fair points. But that's the problem, is now it can't afford to just be okay anymore. Not for the sake of the story overall, and not financially. The status quo has to change each time now to keep people invested, because once Disney starts to see losses, other tech streamers, other streaming giants are probably going to start losing subscriber backing as well. And they can't support it with ads either, apparently, or people are averse to it. And the gradual decline and the eventual end of the MCU will be a major shift in public entertainment and probably in the American economy. But good movies and good stories will survive. The art form's not going to die. And I don't think that Ant Man 3 killed the MCU, but it's symptomatic of its decline from every film being a cultural event to what now feels like a forgettable more of the same. You know, except Jonathan Majors, who we all agree was very good. I don't expect Shakespeare out of these movies. I don't want Shakespeare. I don't want a panel-for-panel regurgitation of comic storylines. I do want dumb fun, too. But I want just a little bit more than that. I want something that feels like I haven't seen before, and as visually stunning as Ant Man 3 was, it feels like a movie I've already seen too many times before, and I only had to sit through it twice. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been the Doomcast. Thanks again to Brightside and to Aaron Graff. We'll see you next week.